Well, dear friends, I am extremely happy to see you again. And allow me, as usual, to present to you all my blessings and all my love. I told you a few months ago that I would return when necessary and certainly before the summer solstice. This is something that is done since we are on this earth on June 7th, isn't it? So, of course, and as I have said many times, you need less and less of me to understand that what happens on the theater stage leaves no room for improvement. And I always told you that looking outside was going to become more and more uncomfortable and, I would even say today, more and more grotesque. There are anomalies on the puppet theater scene. You see, there are expressions that exist on earth to tell you that things are really not going well at all. Now, for those of you who are familiar with certain prophecies, whether from the East, the West, Islam or elsewhere of course, you cannot ignore that there is a species of concordance with what had been announced by the prophets and what is currently taking place on this earth, on this scene which can be described as the finale and a somewhat grotesque comedy which I have often called a nightmare. I also know that some of you are going through very particular personal trials which do not, I would say, offer adequate solutions. What you need to understand, and I repeat it again today, is that whatever is happening in your life, at whatever level, or whatever is happening in the society in which you are still immersed and this, whatever the country, should not trouble you. I remind you that as soon as you look inside yourself, as soon as you become silent, as soon as you welcome these sometimes detestable circumstances of your lives or of society, things resolve themselves, in a way, on their own. Themselves. There are moments of great lucidity that arise within you. You understand that everything that plays out on the puppet scene is more and more dramatic, grotesque, nightmarish, but also has no reality for those who agree to turn towards what we have called the Great Silence, the eternal presence, or if you prefer, this state of inner silence which allows you to go through the trials of your lives as well as the trials which are in your society, in your country, but also which will unfold more and more quickly on earth-world scene. I remind you that the solution, and now more than ever, is only in the here and now, and that you will have no escape from what you are in truth apart from what you are in truth. You cannot today claim an improvement in the world scene. You cannot claim an improvement, if your life circumstances are detestable, an improvement in these life circumstances. The only improvement you can find is in the welcoming of this unacceptable, in the here and now of the present moment, but above all in the silence that you simply make of this observer who observes this disorder at the moment. Outside, and sometimes unfortunately in your lives, and to let it, as we told you, pass through it through the principle of acceptance. And I guarantee you that at that time you will be at peace. I didn't say it's going to happen in 1 or 2 minutes. I did not say that this peace that you are going to find will remain eternally, depending of course, on the vicissitudes of your external life which, of course, is still present. You are all, wherever you are on this earth, seeing an increasingly profound degradation of what is called society, whether through human relationships, whether through the media, whether through either through the spectacle that is given to you to see or experience. All this will become more and more grotesque, more and more astonishing, but this should not alarm you because I have always said, for years, that the ending scene will be a great burst of cosmic laughter. As our dear Biddy would say, it's a theater stage, it never existed, even if you are actors, even if you are spectators, in fact, there are neither actors nor spectators since in the end, there is no one. There is only the great silence. This is all just a dream. This is all just a nightmare. All this is, once again, what you wrote to remember what you are prior to the world, prior to the light, prior to any manifestation of consciousness, whatever it may be. You are about to find yourself. And I would say that the more difficult it may seem to you to understand, to accept, to go through, the closer you are to what you truly are. I have never hidden from you, already for several interventions, that the theater stage was going to enter a kind of final cataclysm, a final apocalypse and apotheosis, where everything will collide. A few years ago, I called it the war of all against all. You may be experiencing it with yourself. You may be experiencing it with a family member. You may be experiencing it with the love of your life. But, remember that all these are only pretexts that you yourself have written, scripted, to find what you are before believing that you are this body, before believing that you have to evolve or have to transform yourself in any way. Either. It is in this chaos that peace will reveal itself to you in an increasingly important way from the moment you accept everything that can happen. And I remind you that acceptance, once again, is not a resignation or the fact of not wanting to see what is happening, but to see with great lucidity this theater scene, this puppet scene where the prophecies, like the actors who are at the front of the stage, want to take you towards great fear, towards great conflict, towards deprivations of freedom. But all this belongs to something which, certainly, will disturb you more and more wherever you are in this world, whether it is the activity of the elements, and you are, in certain countries, already experiencing it in an intense way. Whether with political governments, with the media, with financial aspects, whether even within families. But I remind you that all this is, in no way, a punishment or anything to be fixed. It is something that is shown to you, that you yourself have written and scripted, as I said, to allow you to find yourself in totality, so that at the end of this nightmare you are, as I have already said, that you have vomited creation, that you are sickened by the lie of form and the lie of all forms, whatever they may be. We have always said that we are all one and that we are prior to light, prior to love, prior to any manifestation in any dimension. All this, which was told to you by me but also by many others, was only a form of preparation to find yourself in this authenticity, in this entirety of what we have called the natural state, or if you prefer real. The natural state and the real have absolutely nothing to do with the character's life. And yet it's written into this character. It is at the heart of the heart, at the center of the double torus, in the ascendant crown of the heart, that the real is found, where there is no need for understanding, where there is no need for explanation, where silence reigns supreme. Each of you in this period, and I will not hide from you that the summer that is coming is likely to be very, very hot, and I am not talking about the temperatures of course, but I am talking above all about the clash of what was called the war of all against all, the eschatological combat between what could be called the forces of good and the forces of evil, which are only the ultimate resolution of something which ultimately is part of the game, is part of the myth of creation and the illusion of the person, and of the very illusion of the world manifested on this earth on which you are, and also where we are in our ships, in all the solar systems, not just for the intergalactic confederation of free worlds, but I remind you, for all of creation. This is the moment, as La Source said, which I know will come and express itself among you soon, of the oath and the promise, but in totality, that is to say that it is not a vague memory of what you are, but it is the entire experience of what you are, through this character, through the history of society, through the history of your country, through the history of your apparent difficulties, your apparent sufferings, or anything that you can imagine happening that might seem unpleasant and contrary to the light. It is an ultimate battle, as I said, eschatological between darkness and light. But I remind you that the scenario is all of us who wrote it, and that we are as much of the shadow as of the light, and that we are prior to the shadow and the light. It's a spectacle. Even if for the moment it seems like a nightmare to you, remember that the worst nightmare will appear to you for what it is, simply an opportunity for a definitive awakening to reality, to the natural state. Don't worry about anything that might happen to you. Be careful. This does not mean that you should not take care of yourself or that you should abandon your children. But trust in what we called, years ago, the state of grace, in divine providence, in what was called the intelligence of light. That is to say, to understand that you are the light, in order to understand and live that you are prior to this light that you are and to the love that you are. You are the great silence. So, Biddy would say to you, you are the Parabrahman, of course, but it is an exotic term. You are the great everything and you are the great nothing. All this through this miserable character in this body which is destined to disappear by the fire of light, by the fire of Nibiru, by the fire of the heart of course, but also by the fire of the planet. This is all ongoing. It's not a question of a date on a fixed day. But you know very well that the tam-tam of the earth has awakened everywhere on the earth, that the events that we have called, like you, geophysics, concerning the tectonic plates of the earth, are experiencing, it is at this very moment, its final adjustments. Nibiru's visibility threshold is extremely close even if we cannot quantify it in hours, days or weeks, or even months. But you are, undoubtedly, in the rush of events, you can only see it. There is a kind of growing chaos, there is a kind of acceleration of events which concern your lives, everyone, without exception, but also, of course, on the world stage, on the stage of society. You are not the fight between darkness and light. But this fight between the shadow and the light takes place to enlighten you, not to choose the shadow or the light once again, but to show you that you are at the origin of all this and that all this is not true. This is the final scene of the last act of the creation myth theater scene. I'm not asking you to believe me. But look at what is happening within you. Look at what is happening in your life. Look at what is happening in your energies, in your vibration. Look at the effect of silence, when you find it and when you let it be, on the transformation of all suffering, all questions and all questions. It is a school, in a way, where we are all, one and the other, whatever our size. It is the school of acceptance, the school of transcendence. You cannot change one iota of what was written for you, for the world and for creation. I always told you that the film had to play out as it was written, that until now you couldn't, as Biddy said, press the button, fast forward, pause, but never rewind. It can't exist. So of course, I'm talking to you today about an acceleration of events, an acceleration of time, an acceleration of the chaos of the earth, an acceleration of tectonic movements, but also an acceleration of events cosmic. It is also a time when the cosmic lie, of which Bernard of Montreal spoke, 3 or 4 years ago now, I believe, is revealed in its entirety. Things that may have left you wondering will resolve themselves. You will understand the manipulation of humanity, whether through invisible planes, whether through the media, whether through all the strategies of confinement of society at all levels. You will be able to deal with lying less and less. The closer you get to the natural state, to the real, the less you will be able to deal with this society, but also with other brothers and sisters. It is a form of inner rectitude that appears. It is a form of intransigence to lies, to what is not true. You will see with greater lucidity, with greater clarity, the travesties of politics. You will see that there will be more and more bugs, as you say, in the matrix, things that are no longer going right, but also in your lives. Because, as soon as you want to rely too much on something external, for example, on projects, on a need for change, the more you will see that it is not going the way you would like as a person. And you will also understand through your personal events that the more you welcome, the more you accept, the more things will unfold as they should. The less resistance you have to the world scene, to any conflict whatsoever, with the bank, with taxes, with the husband, with a child, the more you will be in the home, the more peaceful you will be, and the more the intelligence of light will show you the ins and outs of such an inner situation, in your personal life, but also on the world stage. The times of planetary lies are ending, that is to say that all those who have lied to themselves, with conscience or without conscience, must understand that they have lied to themselves or that they have lied, and this concerns absolutely all levels. It is not only the lies of, for example, your media or politicians, whatever the country, but it also concerns the lies of each of you in whatever area. And if you accept that you lied to yourself or if you accept that you were lied to, then peace will come and at the same time of course forgiveness. Because I remind you that this has no real existence, it is a tragedy, it is a theater scene, it is a video game, it is a film, whatever expression you use. And Biddy, already for a very long time, told you that you were in a dream, a nightmare. Creation in its entirety is a dream and a nightmare, and it is from there that you must wake up and understand, as we have both told you, that you were never born, that you are never dead, that there is only one consciousness fragmented infinitely through feelings of individuality, where the impression of being a character who was born with this weight and who must accomplish this mission, all that is spiritual nonsense. Only the present moment and the welcome of this present moment ensures that your life in this chaos will be filled, yes, with harmony and peace. Everything else will become more and more futile, everything else, whatever you still attach importance to today, will seem completely childish to you during this summer. Besides, I think that I will come back as soon as major world events begin, and I am not talking about the visibility of Nibiru, but I am talking about world events concerning the whole of human society, in all countries, in all the continents, because that is what is happening. You can't avoid it. So of course I know full well that some brothers and sisters take refuge either in denial, or in a new land, or in everyone is beautiful, everyone is nice, but that is not that is the truth. The truth is that you are none of that, nor a new earth, nor everyone is beautiful, he is kind, nor in denial, simply acceptance. Inevitability will make you find what you are in truth prior to form, prior to character, prior to your life, prior to the earth. It is not something that comes with vision, it is not something that comes with explanation, it is the direct understanding of what you are through the great silence. That is to say, you are both the all and at the same time the nothing. And that is not something that we can express in words, it is not something that we can tell, because there is no vision, there is no story, there is no scenario, there is nothing to say about it, except to welcome in the great silence of the truth what you are. And each of us, wherever we are, we will be led to experience it, with loss and uproar, but also with great joy. All that you have to lose is nothing, and is only intended to make you find what you have always been beyond the illusion of form, beyond all history, beyond any scenario and above all beyond any intellectual understanding. It is time to free yourself from all guardianship, and when I say that it is time to free yourself from all guardianship, that does not mean leaving parents, children, family, or your life either, it means understanding that you have always been free, not the freedom of free will, not the freedom of grace, but that you had believed that you were subject to an external authority, societal, family, parental, money or whatever you want, all of that is part of the same scenario of the puppet theater scene. You are the one who must remember what you have always been despite the appearances of your history, despite the appearances of your shape, despite the appearances of the concerns of society and or your life. All this will become more and more evident to you. As I said, there is no escape from this. So the sooner you understand this, the sooner you will live it. And the intensity of the events, the intensity of the very vibrations which arrive from the center of the earth, which arrive from the depths of the cosmos, from the galactic center, but also which are generated by human bullshit, what you call the waves, all the waves of the earth which were supposed to enclose you and do you harm, will lead you to understand that, even these waves of confinement which perhaps still make you suffer, have no influence on what you are. It influences the body, it influences thoughts, it influences your mood, but in no case can it influence who you are in truth. And the very fact of being disturbed, if I may say so, by all these multiplied waves which arrive, whether it is ultraviolet radiation, whether it is solar radiation, whether it is the radiation of the source, whether the radiation from the crystalline core of the earth, or whether it is the radiation from what you call the antennas which are ruining your life, are only there to allow you to find yourself in totality. From the moment you accept it, you live it. If you are not experiencing it yet, that does not mean that it is not the time. Today it simply means that you have not accepted it in your soul and conscience, if I may say so. Your sincerity is not complete. If you are completely sincere with the idea of being that which you cannot understand, that which you cannot see, that which you cannot vibrate, that you were never born, that you never are dead, that you are not your story, if you are sincere, then you live it. You are asked not only for lucidity, simplicity as we have always told you, great humility, but above all to be sincere with the real that you perhaps do not yet know. Those of you who have already experienced it of course no longer ask yourself this type of question. They can be extremely tired of this game of creation but, there too, they must, in quotes, hold on. You do not have the right to end the dream until the collective moment of creation, and not just of the earth, has arrived. This moment is coming quickly, no one knows the date, but the rush of current events gives you a feeling of immediacy and also of urgency somewhere. There is nothing to do quickly, the only urgency is to put an end to time, to put an end to space, and it is within you that this is happening. It doesn't happen in the resolution of any problem whatsoever, it happens in an acceptance with such humility within you that you first accept being nothing at all to understand that you are absolutely everything. This is Parabrahman. This is real. This is what allows you to go beyond the white paradise, to discover that you are at the origin of the white paradise, that we are all at the origin of creation, but that we are prior to that. And to discover that, I can't even say, maybe it's a great joy, but I can't say it's an ecstasy or something that can manifest externally, but that will bring absolute inner certainty that, whatever happens to you, that whatever happens to your children, to your family, to this society, to your country, this is absolutely nothing compared to the truth. And it is precisely because you are entering this kind of great chaos that I have gradually announced to you this year, that you have the greatest opportunity, once again, to realize what you are, to remember what you are. You were never born, you never died, you were always there, but you didn't know it, and we didn't know it. Because it was the oath and the promise that we had made to the first inhale and exhale of creation, which is nothing else, as you know that the last inhale and the last exhale of creation All this will take place, and in a manner, I would say very intense, around the summer solstice, of course, which is a very important celebration in terms of cycles, but also in terms of societal events which, I assure you, will collide in a much harder way than anything you experience on the theater stage today. This should not panic you, on the contrary it should reassure you, and above all, remember that you cannot interrupt the dream of the person who dreams. Be yourself in the real, that will be enough to radiate this real to all the dreamers, to those who are afraid, to those who wonder about what they will become, what their children will become, because they will understand while they have nothing to become that is not already, and that is very important. Remember that silence is the greatest teaching you can deliver, and deliver from what you are. No words can have the effectiveness of the great silence, no vision can match the beauty of the great silence. No scenario can fill any void, only the great silence can. So of course I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. As I said at the beginning, it's not going to be peace all the time, it's not going to be serenity all the time, it's not going to be the great silence all the time, but you will notice that you will be more and more strengthened in the great silence, more and more solid in the real, and less impacted by the scene of the world, even if you are still on this world and you still live in it. It's the same for all of us wherever we are. Don't look for dates, don't look for scenarios. At some point you will be so offended, so disgusted by everything that is unfolding as a lie, that you will thirst for the ultimate truth. It is a mechanism that you cannot control, it is a mechanism that I would describe as automatic. Accept this automatism of the real and you will experience what you are, that is to say the natural state and the real. That doesn't mean not doing what you have to do, of course, but it means putting what you have to do into perspective in relation to what you are. Already, you have nothing to look for or seek. You just have to let what has always been there appear through your welcome, and it is in the chaos of society and sometimes of your life that this will manifest itself. Remember my words, years ago, that all this will end in a great burst of cosmic laughter, whatever the gnashing of teeth, whatever the emotions that every normal human being experiences, whether it be anger, fear, sadness, or others like discouragement or even the influence of thoughts that I would describe as negative, you are none of that, and the very play of the scene of this world will lead you there. It can't be otherwise. Already accept that this is how it is, and this is how it is. It calls, I would say, as I said earlier, on immense sincerity, great lucidity, and of course great humility, not to take yourself for something, not to believe that you are in a scenario or a story, that is to say disengaging yourself from the tension of the fear of death, the fear of the character, the fear of the loss of money or members of the family or society, whatever it is, in which you live. It is a new confidence that must emerge. It is not a confidence in yourself, it is not a confidence in the light itself, it is a confidence in what you really are, which you perhaps do not know, but it is this trust there, in the unknown as Biddy would say, which today must be at the front of your life, at the front of your stage, whatever your scenario. So of course I also remind you that you are exactly in the right place, and especially if you tell yourself that your place is not very pleasant, it is precisely because you must be there. It is much easier to wake up in the chaos of the nightmare than in the perpetuation of the dream or illusions. You must let go of all illusions, all beliefs in any future here or elsewhere. You are here and now in this body, in this dream, at this stage of your life, with the problems you have, in the country where you are, with the body you have. And it is through all these elements which can sometimes seem difficult to you that we find lightness and the absence of seriousness. Because, I remind you, it's all a dream, a nightmare, it's nothing real. Now is the time to demonstrate it to yourself, and above all it is time to live it. I believe that the Source, in about a month precisely, will come through its words, allow you, through its words, to bring you closer, I would say, to this ultimate shift which, at the time, had been told by the Archangel of Reversal, who was the Archangel Uriel. Whether it is the shift of the poles, whether it is the shift from illusion to reality, whether it is the shift of your consciousness towards a consciousness, that is to say what is prior to consciousness, everything this is being realized at the present time to a degree which surely you must perceive. This is much more than an emergency, it is much more than something that needs to be resolved once again, it is something that you should accept and check for yourselves. What are the effects of this acceptance on what you are in truth? The more you release, the less you resist, and the more you find yourself. It is up to you to demonstrate this to yourself in all the actions of your life, not only in important events, but also when you have the opportunity to walk in nature, when you perhaps have the opportunity to meditate, or to exchange with a brother, a sister, or a member of your family. Think of sincerity, think of humility, think of acceptance, think above all of the great silence, and then you will be extremely close to what you have always been. And remember, the more chaos grows outside, whether in the life of your character, your country, or whatever aspect is affected, the more opportunity you will have to live as you are. So you see, I haven't said very new things today. I don't have so many stories to tell you anymore, but more to strengthen you more and more in what you are and that perhaps you have not yet recognized. Because there is nothing else more important than that today, whatever your life, whatever duties you have at the moral level, at the financial level, at the societal level, at the level of your character, it represents absolutely nothing compared to what you are. And you are promoted to this lightness, whatever hardness you have to go through at whatever level. Remember, the harder it is, the lighter it is. This is also the principle of inversion, that is to say, restoring order to everything that has been inverted. At the time we spoke to you about inversion of the truth, we spoke to you about planetary lies, cosmic lies, oblique light, all of that is coming to an end. It is the end of predation, it is the end of the placing under supervision of humanity, the placing under supervision of your conscience, the placing under supervision of the very principle of what was called the incarnation, which is a huge fraud, because when we have been telling you for years that you were never born and never died, it obviously does not concern this mortal character, but what you have always been. There was a problem of identification, and therefore today, in this final reversal, there is literally a disidentification with the story, with the character, a disidentification with the form, with the history of creation, with the history of the worlds. You are no story, you were never born, and as our dear Biddy said, there was never anyone. It is the total actualization of the oath and promise that you made to yourself as source, it is to return to the state before the source, before the light and before the love. Creation was only a role-playing game, and also a fool's game, because there was nothing to gain, there was nothing to lose, there was simply the game of opposites, the play of dimensions, the play of fragmentary, personified forms, whether it be an archangel, an angel, whether it be Yaldabaoth, whether it be a demon, all these were just games. That's what you must understand and literally live today. There is no other key than acceptance, there is no other key than the great silence. The crossing is done at this price, and this price to pay is nothing compared to what you find once you have paid this price. Because freedom is priceless, because it is priceless to be what you have always been and to find it again. So I tried to make very general words today. There is no point in talking about details, there is no point in talking about climate upheavals, there is no point in talking about the shift of the physical earth and magnetic, there is no point in talking about the monumental storms that I mentioned many years ago and which are rising on the earth, whether at the level of the elements of the earth, whether at the level of societies. This chaos only reflects the incomprehension of what you are, but this chaos leads you to the understanding of what you are. It can't be otherwise. This is what I had to say to you in a somewhat vibrational way this evening, because I am not going to dwell once again on successions of events. Just know that the convergence of events, whether it is the prophetic convergences, whether it is the celestial signs, whether it is the human signs, whether it is the vibrational signs for those who experience the vibrations in their bodies, all converge towards what we name time zero, that is to say the moment when alpha joins omega, in order to understand that alpha and omega are conjoined, that there is no distance, that there is no space and there is no time. And that it was all just a pilgrimage within all the possibilities, all the dreams and all the nightmares. I wish each of you, during this time of summer and before I return during this summer, to find yourselves entirely in this great silence, in this acceptance. I remind you that this is not something easy to go through, but that the more difficult it is, the easier it will be to find you. The apparent paradox is there, when there is nothing to cling to, then the human knows who he is. Sometimes it's been called resilience, sometimes it's been called bouncing back. When there is no more hope in any way, neither in your head, nor in your life, nor in the world itself, then you return to what you have always been. And that's the most important thing. I don't have much else to say to you. I would just like to add this: be gentle and patient, with yourself of course, but with all the circumstances in your life that you will encounter. Don't judge anything, see things clearly. Yes, if you look outside as well as inside. Be sincere with yourself, forgive yourself, your fears, your shortcomings, your mistakes, because ultimately, there is no fear, there is no lack, and there is no error, there is just reality. And feel free to do the same for anything that appears extremely dark on the outside, or even extremely bright. It's just the play of light and shadow, it's not who you are. Be calm and gentle. Find, as I said last time for yourself, time to be silent, not to do something, but to stay and be still. And I believe that, Osho, a few years ago, 7 years ago now, 8 years, 7 years ago, said, be lazy. Ah yes, made, nothingness, that means what it means, this nothingness is what contains everything, you have nothing to do, you just have to be more and more what you are. And this cannot manifest itself in external action, it only manifests itself, with more and more evidence, in the capitulation of all will to change anything. This is what I had to tell you. I have nothing else to add, and I will let, of course, the time within a month, I believe, the source express something very vibrational, like lighting a spark in you, beyond the speech, simply to allow you to remember even more, if possible, what you are. Allow me, dear brothers and sisters, other parts of myself, to convey to you all my blessings, as well as the blessings of all Melchizedek, of the entire intergalactic confederation of free worlds, but also of the Alpha and Omega. You are loved beyond what you can understand, you are loved beyond what you can imagine or experience. And this is valid for each of us, we are at the source of love, it is love which created creation, it is love which created the dream, and it is the love that brings you back to reality. So, be sincere, be humble, be real, be present and be quiet. All our love accompanies you, and I certainly say see you in 2 months to, once again, express myself among you. And I say to you now, see you soon. All our thanks to Jean-Luc Ion and OMA, as well as the entire transcription team, Les Petits Mains. Channeling by Jean-Luc Ion in French. Translated through Google Translate from original text at https://apothios.live. APOTHEOSE